Comes audio son. You burn the swine when no want you shine. The tree of life, them no want you climb, cause them heart no kind. Comes, I say them heart no kind. Buxton Massive, Kidaki, Red Hat. The fire burning red and a Georgia representing of a comes audio. Big up Kidaki, Buxton Massive. Hey Babylon boy, you go on like you know, like come son. Red.
Never joke, never joke, never joke. Oh, money never, money never, money never, money never, money. I know what you can I be. Money never, money never, money never, money. You can keep your conniving money. When you've been up for a bum, in a bill tell me money. Now because your money done, you come with conniving money. When you had your pocket full, in a bill tell me money. Now because your money done, you hustle for tell me money. Yes, money never, money never, money, money never, money, money. Now know what you conniving money. Neighbor, joker, neighbor, joker, neighbor, joker. That's all the money that me walk for. A 2 pound note and a kill that piece. A 2 pound note and a kill that piece. A 2 pound note and a kill that piece. This is all the money that me walk for. Money never, money, money never, money, money. I know what you can I be money. Oh, Joseph.
Guyana and Guyanese, at home and abroad. Tune in to Guyanese Morning Time, hosted by Kadaki Amsterdam, where the sun always shines. Guyanese Morning Time, the people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. We rise up early morning watching Comes TV, where wisdom and knowledge, yes, it is the key. Exposing corruptions over land and sea, where the wicked politicians they try to trick me. Guyana is a land for everybody. With 6 races should live in harmony. Is one set of people getting aisle money. Is one set of people doing the thievery. Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. This is a program that you all can see, sharing your views and your integrity. Like it, comment and share it all around. Pass it to your neighbor, safe and sound. A sad situation going on in this town. The voice of the people is getting trampled down. Out of the mouths of babes and sucklings, with Jah as ordained me to sing. I sing Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, fooling the people. You're promoting evil. Stop lying to the people. You are a part of the cycle. Stop fooling people. You're promoting evil. Stop lying to the people. You are a part of the cycle. I say Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. They got Breakford, Bork and Mark Benchcop. David Hines and Kadaki Amsterdam. Sherrod Duncan, Nigel London. Normal Brown and Gavin Matthews. Big up Paslow, Port People Governor. Simona Brooms, Robin Simpson. Hampton Green and Winston Jordan. And yes, we can go right on and on. Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again.
The relatives and friends of young Wyndham Bacchus, they deserve justice. The family, the relatives and friends of our in Boston, they deserve justice. The family, the relatives and friends of Peter Headley, they deserve justice.
And so when we say that Guyana is an apartheid state, we have the evidence to show.
Hey fans, it's karaoke and oldies night this and every Thursday at Club Twilight Sideline Dam, Buxton. Dance to the magical songs of yesteryear by popular DJs and Camps Audio. Admission is free. Come out, let's make memories at Club Twilight Sideline Dam, Buxton North. You can get meat anywhere, but for the best cuts of chicken, beef, pork, mutton, and lots more, check out T&W Harris Butcher Shop located in the East Ramvelt Market Meat Section. Call us on 609-7168, 641-4494. Ask for Rastaman. T&W Harris Butcher Shop for the best in fresh cut meats and lots more.
Shared governance, and the only body's gonna jump to share governance, it will be the PPP. So,
morning, neighbor, morning. Namaste. Buenos dias. Boa tarde. Boa tarde. That's afternoon. Morning, everybody. Bonjour. Good morning. How are you doing? Morning, neighbor, morning. Welcome to another program of Guyanese Morning Time. I am your host, Kidaki Amsterdam. Welcome to the program. How have you been? How was your last night? How was it yesterday? What were you able to achieve yesterday in keeping with your plan of progression? What were you able to achieve? What obstacles were you able to overcome? How was your last night? Did you rest well? You had the opportunity to sit quietly and think on how your day went, how your life is going, what are your future plans, and what are the possibilities of succeeding and things like that? Have you? I hope you have had that opportunity, and I hope you were able to do some introspection and some retrospection. And so you are looking forward from perhaps a new perspective. Right? Because one of the good things, or one of the recommendations in management, is that you don't only plan, but you revisit your plan every now and again, even as you are executing it. Because you'll have to tweak here and you'll have to tweak there, and have to make a little change here, and you have to make a little change there. Good? And so I hope that we don't just set a plan and then we're going steadfastly forward and not checking to see where we have to tweak. And then we come to realize that, hey, we were missing this important aspect, and now that we are almost at the end of the road, we have to go back to address that most important aspect that we missed. Or if we were not to complete it, our hard work will go in vain because everything will just fall down. Right? Everything will just follow. So I hope you, from time to time, take the time, sit back, and re-examine what you're doing, how you're doing it, looking for a smarter way to do it, and things like that. Good. I hope you're doing that. Sometimes I get the impression not many of us do that because we continue to want to do things the old way. For example, when we talk about protest, everybody talks about protests, I'd say with an old perspective. Protest in the past was raucous. Protest in the past was destructive. Protest in the past was intermingled with criminality and so on and so forth. Not necessarily all the time from the part of the protesters, but we know for a fact that the PPP over the years were using people from the depressed communities to infiltrate protest, peaceful protest, and turn it into chaos. I know for a fact that one of the PPP leading politician who it is alleged said that if you want to control black people, just give them free drinks and a pot of cup. That person, as we like to say in Buxton, is currently shitting on his heels. But we know for a fact, I know for a fact, that that particular individual used to come to Buxton, some parts of Buxton, and fed them youngsters, fed the depressed, and then link them up to go and disrupt people's protest in the days of height and so on and so forth. I know that for a fact. I know for a fact that at least 2 persons who died in the office of the president Melee, I think there were 2 persons. I think they were the 2 persons who died. I remember Cottage and a girl we used to call Battle Wine. Both of those persons were recruited by this individual to go and lead the protest astray, to be disruptive. As fate would have it, they ended up with bullets. Not that I'm rejoicing that that happened to them, but those are the fruits of the seed that they sow. And so, yes, we know that the PPP is known for that. And there's no greater teacher than history. And so if we know that that is what the PPP does, do we allow that to stop us from protest? Or do we devise plans to counter that kind of activity? Right? That's what I want us to know. Do we allow that to stop us from protest, or do we plan in such a way that that can't succeed anymore? I asked a question yesterday morning while chatting with Dr. Hines. If the CCTV cameras that many people seem to be so deathly afraid of will not be there to protect us also. Dr. Hines' position was known. They're not controlled by us. But don't we also have cameras that we control? Don't we also have cameras that can tell our story? Every day we are live on social media. I completed a live on social media yesterday morning. By yesterday afternoon, I was at Success doing a live. Somebody's calling me. I wonder why. Let's see why. Good morning. How may I help you?
Yes, good morning, gentlemen. I'm just calling to speak about one thing about the protest. I mean, yes, they will be having disruption of protest, but there's a way you can fight that. All the APN you have to do, or the party have to do, is to nominate or appoint marshals. Every 10 feet, every 25 feet, there's 2 marshals, 3 marshals, and you give them handband. The marshals will be able to ensure like there will be 1 deterrent. Number 2, if there's anybody trying to impede on the protest, we know they will coming from the PPP side, and we know we animal with the police would happen. So all we have to do is fix them first and then hand them over to the police. That would stop them. Marshals is the thing that has to go with. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, so y'all please don't call me now. It's not a calling thing. And by the way, those of you who tune in, let me say that I have one of our long-standing guests and member of the CAMS family who will be on this morning with us, a finance guru, if I can call him that. And so those of you who have been missing former Minister of Finance, Winston Jordan, he's going to join us in about 3 minutes then. Good? So share the word, spread the word, tell a friend, call a friend. Hey, Winston Jordan is on this morning, and we will talk quickly about some of the things, right? That we would like his input on. Good, so keep that in mind. Yes, don't we also have cameras which can tell our stories? And I'm sure if we were going to go protest, CAMS TV is going to go live. Possibility is Cheryl Duncan is going to be live. Coalition TV is going to be live. So we're going to have a lot of lives. Can't we use that as a deterrent? Can't we use that to document what is happening out there? You see, quite frankly, what I hear, every time I hear people not wanting to protest because of the fear of the PPP, I hear just that, fear, right? I hear fear. I hear people making what many of us will call silly excuses. Protest is still possible. Right in the United States of America might have the most cameras perhaps per capita in terms of ensuring safe cities and so on. But people are protesting left, right, and center. The student movements across the US are leading right now the protests against Israel and the genocide, right? Cameras are not deterring people. Cameras should not be a deterrent. If anything, cameras should be an enabler because the security forces are supposed to be able to monitor the situation so that it doesn't become volatile. And those of us with our personal cameras or smartphones, etc., should be able to document the protest. So should there be any contestations, we have the record. Those very cameras that we go live with are also expected to protect us from the police and their excesses and their brutality because the world will be watching. And so when we put the police's behavior in focus to the world, then it's another thing that the PPP will have to answer for. Good. But when some people speak, they give the impression as though when you protest, you go there to protest to create havoc. You're not going there to create havoc. You're going out there to protest to draw to the world's attention that you're displeased with what's happening in this country. You're going out there to protest to draw to the government's attention that you have hundreds of thousands of people behind you saying that we're displeased with what you're doing. And so we should not be fearful of protests, and I'm maintaining it. I humbly suggest, and I'm suggesting again, that one of the effective ways of protesting is occupying Regent Street. And you're not occupying Regent Street as protesters, you're occupying Regent Street as window shoppers. So you set a day, perhaps you set a time or a stretch of time. Listen, let's occupy Regent Street from 8 Saturday morning to 2 Saturday afternoon on this particular date. Nobody else is giving you any instruction. You're going there of your own free will. And so everybody comes out, quote unquote, to shop on that particular day during those particular hours in their numbers. Except that they just window shopping, they're ensuring no business is done. That's a form of protest, and we can do that 2-3 times a month. And so the business community will start to feel the squeeze, and they will say to the government, hey, you are putting us under pressure, we need to have this changed. And why do we need changes in the government's behavior? Because the government's behavior is hurting people, and it's hurting a particular set of people. Good. When you look at hundreds of billions of dollars given out in contract, and when you look at the lineup, right? When you look at the lineup, who do you see as the contractors? When you go into Success yesterday, and the citizens are complaining, in their assessment that it is poor work done by the contractor. The person was contracted by the Ministry of Housing to move them from one section of Success to the other section where they had to pay $250,000 minimum for a plot of land, and then give them 3 days to remove the structures from in front to that plot of land. The contractor that was hired to do it, the residents are saying, did bad work and was responsible for a lot of their homes falling down, collapsing under rain and wind. When you look at that and you see who the contractor is, you know that you want to have changes. You have to have the government changes behavior. When you look at the shoddy work done by that particular contractor, a man named Omar, a man who the residents say only has 4 workers and is responsible for relocating all of those homes in that area. Relocating and fixing them, elevating them, because the government, according to the residents, say they don't want them low, they want them high. Tomorrow I'm going to deal more in depth with that particular issue. But for now, let's see if we get Winston Jordan.
Hello.
Good morning, sir. I was wondering if you went back to bed.
I do some ablution activities.
Okay. In other words, we discard any necessarily unnecessary information. How you doing, Mike?
Well, take that one day at a time. You know, Sweet Jesus. I
All
always
right.
remember that tune from. I think it was a favorite of Machu Allen. I think it was. You know, it's a very inspirational tune. But
Yeah.
I've come a long way health-wise in terms of where I was a year and a half, 2 ago. But
Good to hear.
still a ways to go, but taking it in stride.
Good to hear. That tune, like you said, might have been made popular by Machu Allen. I grew up hearing that tune. My neighbor had maybe radiogram in those days, maybe in the 80s. I lived in Kitty at that time. I was attending St. George's primary. And every morning you would hear, one day at a time, sweet Jesus. That's all I'm asking from you. To give me the strength to do everything that I have to do.
Correct.
Might not be in the same sequence of words, but in short, that was one day at a time, sweet Jesus. A very melodious voice, the singer. I can't remember who sang that song, but yeah, one day at a time, sweet Jesus. It should be many of our anthems. We got to look to something for hope, eh?
Yes.
Good. So I see you've been featured in the news. You're being featured in the news quite often now. The most recent, I noticed you sued the government of Guyana for in excess of what, 100 million?
$1 billion.
$1 billion. So you're gonna be the $1 billion baby, boy. I hope if 1/10 or 1/20th of that, 1/40th of that should help Camps TV to do wonders.
You might be amazed to see. You may have to join a very long line. The line gone around the block already.
But you see, you're gonna gotta weigh this thing in terms of importance of work. And if we ain't get none, we know that we ain't doing nothing that makes sense.
People I didn't know before, people I didn't know who loved me. You know, all kinds of people crawling out the whole work and lining up.
I'm sure you'll find some great nephews and nieces along the way.
All along the way. Because whether it's a billion rupees, $1 billion cruzeros,
Is a
or $1
billion?
billion dollars, people figure that you get money coming.
You are saying.
Well, it's a long way to go, but before I indicated why I wanted to come on today, but first let me extend condolences to the PNC family on the death of Oscar Clark. He's a very genial fellow, very likable fellow. I knew him for quite a while. And I have nothing but positive to say about him. And may he rest in peace and rise in glory. He has done his art's work. And the ancestors would like to make use of his skills and his diplomacy and so on. So rest well and farewell, Oscar. Yeah, today, May the 16th, represents 1 year since the magistrate Leron Daly dismissed the trumped-up bogus charge that was brought against me. And as you indicated, and as I will only briefly touch around, because I don't want to be accused of contempt, since the matter is, this particular part of the matter is in court. But as people will probably recall, soon after this government was installed on August the 2nd, 2020, they proceeded on a vicious rampage that targeted mostly African Guyanese. And it perhaps was in keeping with what was being said by two of their major acolytes, that once they got into power, they will be coming after the Granger cabinet and other persons, especially those in the Elections Commission. They lined me up in their sights for obvious reasons. Apart from being the Minister of Finance, I also worked the longest stretch of my career under the PPP government from 1995 to 2007. And prior to that, from, but I wasn't there when they came into power in October 1992. I was on a Fulbright Hubert Humphrey Fellowship in the United States for a year. So I came back, I think it was in July of 1993. So I would have worked physically with them from 1993 up until I resigned. I think it was in August of 1994. And then they called me back, and I went back in, I think it was in June 1995 until June 2007. So as everyone knew, I had a critical role to play in the financial architecture of the government at the time. So they knew I knew a lot about government, what took place in government, and so on. So they lined me up in their sights. And from as early as November 2020, they started putting in the press a lot of what I consider to be libelous material about me. But I tended to ignore it at the time. And then in February of 2021, I was doing my activities when I saw some people appear on my gate. They were there to deliver to me, I don't know what you call it, whether it's a statement of claim, writ, whatever. But I was being sued civilly, along with the NISIL, the head of NISIL, Calvin Heath London, the Registrar of Deeds, I think four, I think those were the four, civilly, for damages in excess of $300 million for the alleged transfer of property to BK. That matter wended its way through the court system, and in September of 2022, Justice Braxton Reynolds handed down a very erudite, comprehensive decision in that matter, in which he threw out the civil suit that was brought by the Attorney General. And he had some very scathing things to say. But ultimately, he deemed the action was an abuse of the court's process. Among other things, he claimed that the AG was not a proper party to bring the case, that Jordan was authorized with powers under Section 8 of the Public Corporations Act to vest the property. As a consequence, both Jordan and BK were awarded $2 million costs. The AG had a lot of disparaging remarks to say about the decision of Justice Reynolds and said he was going to appeal, which was an obvious thing, that he was going to do anyhow. He made an appeal to the full court, and the full court comprising of Justices Joanne Barlow and Sandil Kissoon again throughout the case, stating among other things that the AG had misapplied legal principles in his bid to involve the state. They described the government as a meddler, and they further awarded costs of $2.5 million to BK. I wasn't awarded costs because I didn't file what you call a response to the appeal of the AG to the full court. So in essence, then BK lawyers have so far been awarded $4.5 million, while I'm at $2 million. The AG has now appealed to the Court of Appeal, and that is where the matter lies at the moment. I was careful to file an appeal also at that. And he has said ultimately that he will go to the CCJ because where the domestic courts have not found in his favor, he has in the past found favor in cases at the CCJ, where he is correct in saying, most recently, as in 2 days ago, I think, when the Court of Appeal threw out him or the government joining the EPA case, he won that at the CCJ, where the CCJ has now said that the government should be joined as a party in a matter in which people are trying to save our environment, but the government and the EP seems otherwise. But that's an aside, essentially. So that's where that civil matter is at the moment in the Court of Appeal. Back to 2021, drumbeats continued. Dog whistling started to appear, in which Stoku was being accused of not bringing charges against former Granger ministers and whoever else. And in, I think it was October, I believe, of 2021, when October the 14th, 2021, I was, I think, called, I think it was around October 14th, if that was a Sunday, then October 14th, 2021. I was reading my papers and so on. Suddenly I got a call that said to me, listen, did you read papers that the AG has said something about you being investigated for quote unquote nefarious transactions? I'm being investigated for nefarious transactions. I was forced to put out a statement that same day when it came to my attention, in which I reasserted my integrity, my professional competence, and my long years of service, of public service to the government, that I was not involved and never was involved in any activity that could even go anywhere near being nefarious. Anyway, by December the 4th, 2021, just about less than 2 months after that, December the 14th, dog whistling, I was called, answered the phone. Somebody identified themselves as an officer of SOCO. Wanted me to come down the next day. I asked for what? They said it's in connection with the PK matter. I said, okay. I went down there, December the 2nd. My lawyer, Rysdale Ford, he accompanied me. And subsequently, while into the interview, Darren Wade also came. So after about 2 hours or so, and the interview came to an end, I was asked to sit outside of the interview room and await for the instructions. Within a short time there afterwards, I was told that I was being arrested. And I asked for what? And they said, and the officer said to me, misconduct in public office. So I asked my lawyer and I asked him, what does that mean? What really is that? Because I'm not too familiar with these things and so on. They then booked me, fingerprinted me, because all of this stuff apparently was brought from some other police building or so on, because I don't know that that stuff existed there, but anyhow, it was readily available. And then a cameraman came and took mugshots of me right there. Afterwards, I was made to empty my pockets and whatnot, hand over the stuff to my lawyers and so on. And then they put me in a car, 3 of them, right? I think one in the front, 2 in the back or something, with I in the middle. And drove me to Plaisance police station. My lawyers came in their cars. At the Plaisance police station, in attempting to hand me over, I fell ill. The officer in charge of the Plaisance police station decided there and then that he was not going to complete the handing over process because he wasn't about to take anybody who was not in good health. So they decided to take me, the SOCO officers decided to take me to the Plaisance Health Center. At that hour of the day, I think the Plaisance Health Center was not necessarily closed, but activity were at a virtual standstill. So in other words, then the center might have operated earlier in the day, and then it came to an end. When we arrived there, I think we met one employee, very kind, as most nurses are anyhow. And she took one look at me, tried to find whatever she could find. And at most, I think all she could have done, was temperature or something. Realized that that was out of control and informed the officer to call an ambulance to take me to the Georgetown Hospital because they were ill-equipped. They didn't have the necessary equipment nor the medical expertise, personnel, to diagnose me properly. And there is when a huge standoff took place. So officers refused to call an ambulance. It got to a stage where Darren Wade, one of my lawyers who was there, decided to throw himself in front of the vehicle, preventing the vehicle from carrying me back to the Plaisance police station in the condition that I was in. At the end of that standoff, the SOCO officer then agreed to take me back to the Soku headquarters, release me into the custody of my lawyers, who then rushed me to the Davis Memorial Hospital. I think most people now will remember what took place then, and it was a life-saving decision. That's something that I will never forget. I don't care how this subsequent lawsuit goes, it is not something that I will ever forget. But, so I was eventually sent home with medication and absolute rest. Then on December the 24th of 2021, Christmas Eve day, SOCU officers appeared at my residence and handed me a document which says that I had to appear in court number 1, the Chief Magistrate's Court, on the 28th, because I think we had a double holiday, Boxing Day holiday that year. So instead of the 27th, it was the 28th that I had to appear. I appeared there and was put on $3 million bail. Lest people forget, $3 million bail, with conditions that I had to report every last Friday in the month to sue. Then my mom saw, because she wasn't aware that I had been arrested on the 72nd. She actually saw me in that fragile state on television. And I think from then onward, she was severely affected in terms of her health because she was 80-something. And between December the 2nd, when I was arrested, 2 months, just slightly more than 2 months afterwards, she died. She died on December the 15th, the day after Valentine's Day. A broken-hearted woman. Anyway, the matter was pursued during 2022, 2023. As you know, I was bounced around from one magistrate to the next until eventually the matter was heard by Magistrate Leron Daly. And in May of 16th of 2023, after a paper committal in which all the evidence, quote unquote evidence, that the prosecution had put in the matter, she dismissed the charges on a no case submission by my lawyers. As you know, as soon as this became public knowledge, the AG had some very scathing remarks of the magistrate's decision, once again, as he had had with the decision by Justice Brassington Reynolds. Indicating, I think both he and Jack Dio, on that day when they heard about it, had these very caustic remarks to be made about judges, about the magistrate, indicating that he will appeal the matter. I think the AFC had put out a statement in which they had claimed that the AG had no local standing in the matter about the question of appeal, and that it was the DPP who had that particular right. Well, I'm not a liar. I just tell you what I read. They're the lies they spoke. Okay, so I'm going along my merry way from May the 16th onwards. Then sometime in January, I awoke around 2 o'clock in the morning, checked my phone and saw something come from my lawyer Risedale phone. And I immediately opened it, in which he had attached a decision of the Chief Justice in the same matter. And that the Chief Justice had dismissed upon an application by the DPP for a committal order to commit me to stand trial in the High Court for the same matter. This right of horror, as you know, as an aside, was taken away as a result of the Marcus Bisram case that went to the CCJ, in which I think they ruled that that particular right that she had was either unconstitutional or something to it. And that if she could not recommit somebody who had been discharged again, that she had to go to the court. And so the law was changed. The law was changed. And the law went to the parliament and the law was changed. So now she couldn't have me rearrested on the steps while I was discharged on the same matter. She had to go to the court. And this is what she did, and that is what she did. But apparently, in changing the law, it gave her the right to go ex parte, which means without the party in question. So sometime between May the 16th, when this matter was discharged by the magistrate, and then I received the judgment from my lawyer. The DPP had gone to the court ex parte for that committal order. And the Chief Justice dismissed after an exhaustive examination of the entire case, not only her application, but the entire case, the entire evidence that was put by the prosecution before the magistrate, and dismissed it. Not a single shred of evidence, not one scintilla of evidence that I did something wrong or committed an error or acted recklessly and all these things that they put. Ultimately, in my view, it was designed to tarnish my reputation, and in many ways, in my view, it was an attack, another attack on African Guyanese. In my view, it was another attack on an African Guyanese. Because, it's not racist. In my view, I'm an African Guyanese, and in my view, it was designed as an attack on the character, integrity, and professionalism of an African Guyanese, and known locally, regionally, and international Guyanese. That they didn't succeed in the sense that had me wrongfully imprisoned as in physical jail, is probably the only plus in this here. But for your name to be dragged in the mud in the regular media, social media, and for your family to have to endure all that, is more than anybody can bargain for the years of public service. And it's the unkindest of quote-unquote reward for a long career in the public service. I would just like to do two more things on this and then go off of it. One is to indicate that on May the 9th, which is last week, Thursday, I initiated proceedings in two courts, the Civil Court of Civil Jurisdiction and the Court of Constitutional Jurisdiction, seeking monetary and other redress in this egregious case. In the civil jurisdiction, I'm claiming damages in excess of $1.2 billion. A, for malicious prosecution for a charge that was read. B, for a charge that was intentionally and wrongly instituted. C, wrongly pursuing legal action. D, false imprisonment. I'm also seeking exemplary damages and vindicatory damages. Those are in the civil action, and this action is slated to be heard Monday coming, May the 20th, before Justice Navindra Singh. In the constitutional matter, in the constitutional jurisdiction, I'm seeking a declaration that my constitutional right to protection from inhumane treatment and or degrading treatment was violated. I'm also seeking a declaration that my constitutional right to protection of freedom of movement was contravened by my unlawful detention by the Guyana Police Force. I'm also seeking damages and an apology from the state. This matter will be heard in the Constitutional Court on June the 24th of this year before the Honorable Chief Justice Roxanne George. Hidaki, I would just like to use the opportunity to thank several people by name. I can't thank everybody, but let me say I thank everybody. But I would like to thank several people by name because of their actions and what they had done integrally. First of all, of course, I have to thank my family, right? All of whom have been a pillar of strength and source of comfort in this run. You know, you have to know me to know how deeply I took, how offensive I thought this thing was to me. Because, like I keep saying, most of my life was built on public service. And just like it teaches today and the public service tomorrow, public service salary is not anything to shout about. But you get your reward knowing that you have been in service to people. Lots of people went off and get big jobs, fancy jobs. I could have gone after because I had offers. That I am here it was due to the persuasiveness of President Desmond Hite, because I should have gone a long time since the 80s. But he called me personally, saying he knew I just get married. He knew I'm unhappy about state of conditions in Guyana, but he asked me one last time to just stick around and help because he wants to put in place a structural adjustment program. There weren't too many bodies around, and if most of you don't know, when the structural adjustment program started, it started with Winston Jordan, Clyde Ruchan, and Pat Matthews, who was the governor. Those were the officials. And then we had Kyle Greenwich, who was the Minister of Finance. Those were the four people who formed the hub of President Hite trying to put together that structural adjustment program. It wasn't something that everybody wanted to be a part because they know the pain that it would have exacted on largely supporters of the PNC. And the fact that largely supporters of the PNC are up to this day still suffering from the effects of the structural adjustment program may have proven them correct in what they thought, and therefore didn't necessarily want to be the front face of what would have been a very harsh, and what was indeed a very harsh structural adjustment program. Perhaps easily one of the harshest in the history of the implementation of structural adjustment programs around the world. Then, of course, I have to thank my lawyers, have to thank them wholeheartedly. Rysdale Ford, Darren Wade, and I think what Darren Wade did on that fateful day, December the 2nd, ultimately might have saved my life. And I would be grateful to him, Kemraj Ramjatan, one of my favorite cabinet colleagues, favorite because he spoke his mind and he wasn't afraid to do that. When a lot of his other colleagues seemed to just wanted to close ranks, he was I always admired him for that. Joe Harmon, of course, and Dawn Cush, who joined after the initial round. She was a very exceptional person, having of course been a magistrate before, and everything else, and her joining was propitious. On the day, on December the 2nd, I had two principal PNCR operatives who were there at the Pleasance Cell Center. Christopher Jones and Aubrey Norton, they were there, and they were also, of course, instrumental in the activities that allowed me to get to the hostel on time. I would like to also thank some identified cabinet colleagues, David Granger, of course, President David Granger, Kemal Ramazan again, Walter Lawrence, Raphael Trotman, David Patterson, Ronald Vulcan, Cathy Hughes, and Don Hastings. There are some other colleagues that I would like to, political colleagues I like to remember, Annette Ferguson, of course, Simona Brooms, Jermaine Figueroa, Coretta McDonald. There are two people on the other side who were on our side at one time, on the PNC side one time, but who are on the other side, but who were very supportive in the sense that they called and tried to find out about my health and so on. And I will name them by name because the thing. Dr. Jennifer Westford, she also appeared with a wreath at my mother's funeral. Coming from, I don't deem her to be an adversary or so on, but you know, she's on the other side. And of course, Africo Selman, she was also called and tried to find out what is going on. Of course, the staff and doctors of the Davis Memorial Hospital, and my own doctor of long standing, Dr. Carl Nemtali. Finally, I'd like to thank you, Kidaki, and the Buxtonian Morning Time family, Chair Duncott, and his various social media pages, and of course, all of that are too numerous to mention, and those include the numerous people locally. Most of them I don't know, but they know me from seeing me, know me from visiting the village. All this kind of thing came up to me and so on. Regionally, from regional institutions, those who call or send texts and messages, internationally, those who call or send texts and messages. I'd like to thank all of them for commiserating and trying to give me the strength. You know, it's very, 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 very hard to pull together strength when you are being accused wrongfully, unknowingly wrongfully, because it is being meant to achieve some purpose. But people don't understand how it survives the very individual. You know, that same Nandalal, when he won his libel suit against Basil Williams, won a libel suit. I just to say to Demerara Waves on the 3rd of July 2023. Demerara Waves quoting and saying, the Attorney General said the state machinery had been used as a political weapon against him because he had politically criticized Mr. Williams and the then David Granger-led administration. Said him, I was innocently charged with a criminal offense. End of quote. Well, Mr. Nandalal, your words in the case of me, identical. The state machinery was used as a political weapon against me, and I was innocently charged with a criminal offense. And in my case, a criminal offense, and I was also served with a civil suit. So I am hoping that all goes well. All those who prayed for me, continue praying for me so that I can get some redress monetarily and an apology that I am seeking. So that will be what I wanted to say on that May the 16th, and today being May the 16th, happy to recall.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. If you'll permit me, am I free to ask you a few questions?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes.
All right. First and foremost, I know you've mentioned the impact on your family and psychology and health and everything. You talk about building yourself, your career in the public service. I know as an economist of repute, you were accustomed to, if I can say that, of doing consultancies and so on. How did these charges affect your ability to earn thereafter?
Immeasurably, because people will commiserate with you and so on and so forth, but they don't want to give you jobs because, number one, if it has something to do with Guyana, clearly they don't want to offend the government of Guyana. And if it doesn't have to do with government Guyana, but it's something to do with Guyana, they clearly don't want your damaged goods. In other words, no matter how bright you be, you are damaged goods. Okay? You're damaged goods.
And so in short, all that you can offer this country, basically, the country is being robbed of.
And definitely. Definitely. I mean, you only have to look to see, look at what is happening to the CDB guy. Right? He's damaged goods. Damaged goods. Professional guy and so on, he's damaged goods. You think another international institution will want him? Yeah? You think a multilateral agency, financing agency will want him? Damaged goods. Immeasurably destroyed his career. Right?
Thank you. You mentioned the structural adjustment program of height. I've always shown an interest in that structural adjustment program.
Just give me 1 second. Let me just
sure.
Close the door. Just 1 second. Can I get a feedback?
Sure. You tuned to the Guyanese Morning Time when we were talking with former Minister of Finance, Vincent Jordan, who I can't say celebrating, but is recognizing the fact that today marks 1 year since the PPP had dragged him to the courts and done irreparable damage to his character and his professionalism and his health and all that could have been affected with the vindictiveness. And so we're talking about that. You would have already explained in detail all of the, I want to call sufferings and challenges that he experienced. All right. Like he expressed, I would call him a patriot for having remained here in the difficult times. He said he was encouraged by you, Desmond White, at the time, to stay and assist in the formulation of the structural adjustment program. Many of us would know about the ERP, the Economic Recovery Program. I think that would have been part of the structural adjustment program. Empty rice pots. That's what of us refer to it as. So I want to ask him a few questions about that. You're back, Mr. Jordan? He's not back as yet. All right, let me tell you that tonight at Club Twilight, it's karaoke night, and I encourage you to come down and support the entity. Club Twilight supports Scams TV and the work that they do. Yes, Mr. Jordan. So I was asking you, you mentioned how convincing you to stay to assist in the formulation of the structural adjustment program. As a student, I've always had interest in that structural adjustment program. It was termed the ERP, right? Am I right?
Yes, the Economic Recovery Program.
Right.
Yes.
We used to nickname it the empty rice pots.
Yes.
Because, like you said, they were harsh times. But how important was that structural adjustment program to, I want to say, where Guyana is today, economically and in international relations?
Absolutely. You know what? It it just goes to show the old proverbs. If we heed them, perhaps in life we'll be a better society. You know the old proverb of a stitch in time saves 9? Our ERP was a stitch too late. So it's like if you have a flu. If you have a flu and you take regular over-the-counter medication, that's fine. However, if that flu continues nagging you, how can you continue to take over-the-counter medication? Because as it nags you, it's getting worse. But you continue to use over-the-counter medication. Finally, when you decide to go, at which stage you realize over-the-counter medication isn't working, and of course, by that time, whatever condition you might have had has deteriorated markedly, the doctor tells you very ominously that due to the condition you got, whether it's bronchitis, pneumonia, or whatever, you will require harsh medication or complication medication, surgery, or whatever. But if you had gone to the doctor very early, that pneumonia or whatever would have been detected. It would have been in early stages, and the medicine to be prescribed would obviously would have been less severe than when you did. After the euphoria of the sugar price increase, 1974, they were about 1974, early 75. After the euphoria of that sugar price increase, there was nothing much else going for Guyana. We had a windfall of sugar price increase. We spent it rather flippantly, lavishly, whatever. We embarked on programs that incredibly we should have known were not sustainable, because we didn't have the revenues based on what we were producing to sustain those programs. And within, as you said, a very short space of time, the sugar price collapsed. Oil prices that had started in 73 rapidly start growing, and so you see the imbalances that began to take place. Now, our attempts to correct those imbalances were very cosmetic, perhaps thinking that those imbalances will right themselves after improvements in the world situation and so on. But even if that were so, the evidence that we were seeing was that those imbalances weren't going to be corrected by any change of fortunes internationally. They had to have serious domestic input to correct those imbalances. But the long and short, as I said, we waited too long. And all the signals that we were getting, be it the black market, be it the smuggling that was taking place, be it the exodus of human resource, scarce human resource, and so all the signs that we were seeing, we turned a blind eye to. So ultimately, when the decision was made to get into an economic recovery program fully around 1988, 88 is when that ERP was more or less started, because before then we were just doing, as I said, a measure here, a measure there, the evaluation in 1987, and closure of certain factories another time, and so on. So these measures, they weren't adding up. They were done in a very single manner, a very disparate manner, and so on. The ERP is the first time that we decided that we were going to do a structured, systematic program. Of course, as I said, any economic recovery program was going to hit the hardest on PNC supporters. No question about it. They were largely public servants. And in any economic recovery program in June those days, the first thing you were going to hit was the public sector. That's the first thing. Remove subsidies, close this institution, militarize that institution, remove tariff barriers, promote private sector. All of those things were going to be antithetical to the African Guyanese at that particular point in time. So, and it was borne out. Like I said, the ERP initially had very strong resistance from key members of the PNC because they knew that this was going to hurt their supporters disadvantageously. And given the state in which the country was in, there wasn't much that they could do about it. Even the CMAP came, I think, about a year or two after the program was implemented. I think CMAP came in 1990 or something like that.
Morning, neighbor, morning. Morning, are you morning? Buenos dias. Boa tarde. Haile, Rastafari, haile, them. Namaste. Morning, neighbor, morning. Waudio. Welcome to another program of Guyanese Morning Time. It is 7 hours 33 on the 17th day of May in the year 2024. I am your host, Kidaki Amsterdam. It's Free Talk Friday. So what shall we do? Shall we open up the lines like, no? Nah. How have you been? How was yesterday? How did you pass your yesterday? Yesterday there were some rains, right? Yeah. It was a rainy Thursday. How did you pass your Thursday? How did you pass your Thursday night? What happened last night? And by say when rain fall, all kinds of things has happened. Things that never happen when sun shine, just happen when rain fall. As we grew up hearing, the weather yesterday was for young ducks and experienced drinks. I don't know exactly what that means, or maybe you can interpret it for yourself. But yes, yesterday was cool and nice. I hope you achieved a lot. I hope you feel good about your achievements. Now, I hope this morning you feel like, hey, it's absolutely necessary that we get rid of the PPP because every day they're doing a little worse every day. They're doing a little worse for our children and people. Good. I want to start this program on a positive. I want to show you what good governance or good intent in government means, right? Usually when you hear about Africa here, all the African leaders are corrupt, all of the African leaders are self-serving, all of the African leaders are nothing but scum, right? When you hear about Africa, you hear, at least in the last 2 years or so, every time morning there's a coup to remove a quote-unquote dictator, to remove somebody that is not governing in the interest of the people. And the prediction usually is that that person was overthrown. The predecessor will go there and be worse because they overthrew them because they want power for themselves too. Well, here is a fine example, right? Here is a fine example of taking actions to bring better to your people. I want you to look at it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Intervlog. I say this is Intervlog, and today we are in Burkina Faso. We are in Burkina Faso because there is one important development going on in Burkina Faso right now as I'm talking to you, and this development is unbelievable. I have never seen anything like this happening in Africa, but it is happening right under our nose. This development going on in Burkina Faso is making me to be happy. This is the first time I am being very happy for a president in Africa. And that president is Captain Ibrahim Traoré. What Captain Ibrahim Traoré did is unbelievable. For some of you who don't know about Ibrahim Traoré took over not up to 3 years and became the Burkina Faso's leader. Since then, he has been loved by many people in Burkina Faso, also many people in Africa. But his love, which he got from people, did not got into his head because he knew his target. His target is to improve development, employment, agriculture in Burkina Faso. And the way he did it is unbelievable. What you are looking at is 400 tractors, 239 tillers. The tillers, for some of you who do not know what it is a tractor that you can ride manually, like a wheelbarrow. And also motor pump, which is water pump. This is for irrigation. This money, he's supposed to have used it to buy cars, because presently, he is driving Land Rover Defender, 2001 model, which is costing about $12,000. But he decided not to change that vehicle. Anywhere he goes, he uses it. Instead of to change cars, Africa's leader have decided to go in to make a nice farming with the little money they have. And what you are seeing is unbelievable. It is the first time in Africa that a president said no for enjoyment, but decided to go for agriculture, which will create employment and produce food for the people. I have always said this time without a number. Africa is poor because nobody wants to go to farm. Immediately, a president enter into office, the first thing he will do is to change his vehicle. Some will go and buy the most expensive Toyota, a SUV that cost about $200,000. Others will go and steal their money, convert it into dollars, hid it into their bedroom. A lot will send their money into international banks, leaving large, traveling, going up and down. To show you the leaders you need in Africa, don't ever go and vote for any leader who is only thinking about expensive car. Those expensive cars they are driving is what is soaking Africa down. Some president in Africa has 20 vehicles for escort. Each of them is bloodproof. Each of them costs about 200,000 United States dollars. How do you improve? You have already used the whole money that belongs to your country for yourself. Where are you going to get money for agriculture? And this is the reason many people are not focusing into agriculture anymore. Because things have changed. Agriculture today is under mechanization. You cannot cultivate yam or cultivate cassava the way we used to cultivate in the past. If you want to be a farmer now, you have to go into mechanized farming, meaning buying tractors, procuring different type of machines, facing agriculture. In Africa, there are land everywhere. In Burkina Faso, there is land everywhere. In many, many places, empty land, nobody is using it. Everybody's mind is how to change his car. Look at Burkina Faso's president. The car he is driving was made in 2001. The current price today as secondhand is $12,000. A president of a country. And he thinks about his country using the little money they have for what? For future purposes. He knows Burkina Faso has a land, and then he focused there. 400 tractors everywhere. 400 tractors, 239 tillers, and 710 motor pumps, and were made available to rural stakeholders to boost agricultural production. In addition, 714 motorcycles were acquired for the benefit of agricultural agents. The government will also support producers with inputs consisting of, among other things, 10,000 tons of fish feed, 68,964 tons of fertilizers, 10,000 liters of phytosanitary products, 18,000 tons of plant seeds, 2,300 tons of seeds, fodder, and 10,000 tons of concentrated feed. At a cost of more than 78 billion FCFA, which is 28 million US dollars. The acquisition of this agro-pastoral equipment and inputs reflects the transitional government's desire to support producers as part of the offensive. Agro-pastoral fisheries and the Presidential Initiative for Agricultural Production 2023-2024. This is unbelievable. This is for leaders that think. And this is the reason I say my channel will always be for people who know what is right. I can never promote people who spend their money for expensive vehicle, or spend the money of his country or of his state or his local government lavishly. It is getting too much, and Africa have been suffering for a long while because the leaders they are electing are actually the ones that are socking their money.
What else you want to see? $28 million worth of investment in his country's agricultural sector. A man who the world was quick to chant down, as I like to say, chant down, because he was the head of a coup d'etat to remove bad governance. Now, everybody who partakes in a coup has wicked intentions or become another dictator. And this is a young man. Don't think it's an old man, you know. He ain't old and gray like me. It's a young man. Some people in political circles and said he's a little boy. But he has a vision for his country. And so instead of buying a Prado, like our political people in office did when they got power, despite the country as Jagan used to say, the country was a donkey cart economy. But they were buying fast cars. They were buying Prados. And they still are buying Prados now, even they get more money now. Good? This is when you think about your people. But the government that we have, at least the current administration, they're thinking about those people. They're thinking about themselves. And some people who look like them. This is similar to what David Granger government did on a smaller scale. David Granger government through the RAID project, Rural Agricultural Infrastructure Development Project, bought tractors and plows, same as tillers, but not the handheld tillers. The plows were to be attached to the tractor. He bought tractors and plows, at least for 4 communities, I think, in this country, to reactivate, re-energize their agricultural productivity. Ask the PPP what happened to the RAID project. Ask the PPP what happened to the tractors and plows that were bought for those communities. I can tell you certainly the one that was at Buxton disappeared. And Buxton people didn't thief it. That we like set up. Right? That's the reality. These are fine examples of what governments should do for their people. But on the contrary, when you look at government in Guyana, especially when it is the PPP in the office, we see quite the opposite. We see them sabotaging agricultural production like they are doing in Mocha. Right now, they're holding on to the land leases in Mocha. Right now, they are suspending the land leases in Mocha. Right now, they're refusing to process applications to land leases in Mocha. The residents of Mocha, farmers from Mocha, can tell you that their drainage and irrigation have been compromised since the PPP went back into office, and so that has affected their productivity and so on. I'm only using Mocha as one prime example. But imagine that happening across the country. Right in Buxton. Buxton is another community that benefited from the RAID project, or I say should have benefited extensively from the RAID project. Go and ask the farmers what is happening at the back of Buxton there. Except for this rain which has fallen recently. The back there was as dry as pitch, simply because water was not coming into the area because of several reasons. Among it, the failure of the authorities to maintain the drainage and irrigation canals at the top end of Buxton where the water comes in, maybe from the conservancy or thereabout. That's not what good governments do, especially when governments are talking about food security and what was the other word? Anyhow, food security, food production and security. Right? That's a good example of what black role models are. That's a good example of what governments should be. But I started talking to you yesterday about the wickedness of the PPP government to the people at success. The wickedness of the PPP government to the people at success. So let's talk about that. We might have an extended program today. I'm going to give you a little more minutes. When I went to Success, those of you who saw the live, saw the things I highlighted. I'm going to recap them quickly for you. First and foremost, when I went to Success, I learned that the people who were affected are people who were living to the front of Success, where they had that fallout with government over who was squatting and who wasn't squatting, and squatting land, and squatting is illegal and all that. They were forced at the hand of the government to remove from there, because the government wanted it for development of high income and middle income house lots. So if you're not a high income person or middle income person, we will dash you at the back. Right? So they had to be dashed at the back. But they couldn't just be dashed at the back. They had to pay the government in most instances, as I learned, a minimum of $250,000 a house lot at the back there. Right? Now, having paid the $250,000 per house lot, or agreed to pay the $250,000 per house lot, the next thing they were told, they had 3 days to remove from the front to the back. 3 days, 72 hours to remove from the front to the back. The government, from my understanding, hired a contractor by the name of Omar. It's the only name I heard, Omar. Because in this country, and that is how you know that corruption is widespread in this country, because a legitimate contractor refuses to tell you his name. A representative of government refuses to tell you his name and portfolio. I learned that a man on the ground there talking on behalf of the Ministry of Housing is a Mr. Aaron. I can't tell you what his first name is. Because when I ask him his name and portfolio, you know, like some children, when you ask them, they're so shy that they answer is guttural. It's down in their belly, down in their throat. A big man, Mr. Aaron, couldn't tell me clearly what his name and portfolio are. But I learned that he is Mr. Aaron. Right? Some people say that name is infamous across this country when it comes to dispossession of poor people and land. Nevertheless, so the contractor can't tell me, well, here, I am Omar so-and-so, and my contracting business is XYZ. Mr. Aaron can't say, well, I am XYZ Aaron, and my portfolio is W. No. You got to get that information, you got to be pulling teeth. And so if you're doing legitimate business, and you're doing good business, you want to put yourself out there. That's the first thing I want to know about the contractor. Contractor should be proud to advertise his business because he's doing a great job. At least he said that. He thinks he's doing an excellent job. Right? But let's continue to talk about this situation at Success. So they had to remove in 72 hours. Now, these are people who were squatting, as the government claims, and their homes were makeshift homes. They knock up a 4x4, they knock up something, a 10x10, they knock up something just to keep themselves out of the weather. And so they're now required to find $250,000, which I guess they did. And they're now required to remove those ramshackles, then make up thing, makeshift homes to the new location. 72 hours you got. And to ensure or to aid you in removing in 72 hours, we, the government, have hired a contractor, Mr. Omar. And Mr. Omar will assist in moving these properties on tractor, based on my understanding. Tractor was the mode of transporting the properties from where they were, the makeshift homes from where they were to the back. Mr. Omar, according to the residents, only has 4 employees along with himself. Right? So the homes, I guess, were transported to where they were. Some people opted to put their homes back on the low levels that they were. They were told by ministry officials they don't want them flat. They want them high off the ground, at least 3 feet. Well, Janice Edmonds is telling me it was $500,000 for the house lots, and it had to be paid in 2 installments. Oh, so it's 2 payments of $250. Thank you for that clarification. Right? $500,000 support people who are living in makeshift homes to get house lots. Right? Good. So we're talking. The homes are transported to those locations according to my understanding. They will move there. The people opted to put them low level. The government said they want them at least 3 feet off the ground. And so contractor Omar as with putting them up. You notice, because I examined everything on camera, the bases on which those homes were placed were no more than 4 inches thick. One of the bases I was able to show you was broken in 2, revealing that in those bases, steel was absent, number 1, and stone, or large aggregate as the contractors will call it, stones, were scanting. So in short, those bases were sandcrete. It's sand and cement for the greater part. Very little stone, no steel in the bases. Now, why am I stressing on the bases? The bases are expected to take the pressure from the top of the building, the weight of the building, and displace it. That pressure will come down on the column and it will be displaced by the base. So the wider the base is better. The thicker the base is better. It will withstand more pressure. But you have a 4-inch base with no sand, no steel to hold it together. Because if you have, even BRC, even if it is cracked, it then doesn't separate because there's something holding it together. But in the instance that I show you, nothing is holding it, so it cracks and it breaks in 2. Column bound to fall. Apart from that, the earth on which the column, the base was rested, and we reach the column here, the earth on which the base is rested is topsoil. If you did agriculture, if you did geography, you will know that the topsoil is loose and is susceptible to weathering faster. It's susceptible to displacement faster than any other part of the soil, the subsoil. So what you do in construction usually, you have to remove that topsoil and get to the subsoil to a certain degree of compaction, what they call it, compaction strength, perhaps. Right? So you know it will not be shifting easily. But no, the base is 4 inches, about 4 inches thick, were rested right on the topsoil. Then came the columns. Now I show you column. Usually what you do is you put steel. You're using the column blocks. What you use is steel in the column blocks. And then you solid cast in the column blocks. So despite the fact that the column blocks were once hollow, you now have a solid cast in the middle there to make it firmer, and the steel, right, to add support. You saw, at least from one column that fell and was broken, that there was no steel running through and through, but there was a little protrusion of steel to give the indication that steel is in this thing. Fraud. Poor construction. You saw on camera that many of the columns were out of line. They weren't straight. They weren't lining up. Right? Vertically, they were like the Leaning Tower of Pizza. They were scanting. It wasn't straight. And horizontally, they weren't lining up with each other in many instances. Those are things I wanted you to note. And I took my time to pinpoint them to you while I was on site. One resident complained of them using pieces of sticks to level up. Pieces of wood and so on to level up. I show you pieces of sticks being used to level up the columns as the blocks were plastered onto each other. They were using sticks to level them. Mortar is supposed to be leveling them in between there. But no, they were using sticks. And so once the weather came and the rain started washing the topsoil, the structures became, what's the word? Unstable, and many of them collapsed. Now, a lot of people are saying it's a natural disaster. The government has no control over weather. Fair enough. The government has no control over weather. But the government had control over the foundation that they put the people's homes on. And so the government's ineptitude, let me call it that, contributed in a large way to the people's makeshift homes falling to the ground and being damaged extensively. Good. That is squarely at the foot of the government. It is they who hired a contractor to do it. It is their contractor who did bad business. Yes, the homes were made makeshift homes. They weren't made of the best quality materials. Maybe they weren't designed in the best possible way because they're makeshift homes, poor people trying to cover their head. And if you got a makeshift home that is transported, the first thing you know, it is going to be weakened from the rigors of transport. The contractor should know that it would be weakened from the rigors of transport. And so the contractor should, in the first instance, cater that we have to reinforce these homes as we put them on these stilts, so as we put them on these pillars. They weren't reinforced. One woman said her home was moved 3 times. Can you imagine moving a makeshift home, second-rate materials and so on, second-rate construction and so on, 3 times? And then they were placed in still on pillars. And let me talk about placing those homes on pillars. Because of the size of the structures, and because of the quality of the material used to construct the structures, to place them high up is to place them at risk. Because the members weren't large enough for the structure to be heavy enough to withstand the wind that will come at any time. And so it's like placing a matchbox up in the air. The wind is going to blow it away. The wind is going to blow it away. And that is exactly what happened in many instances, apart from the columns falling apart, because the subsoil, the topsoil shifted out of place. It is obvious that the wind had an impact on some of them, like the young man who said his home was skanking like granite. It was like the Leaning Tower of Pizza. It's obvious that the wind damaged it because it did not have the structural strength to be that high up. And any contractor, any engineer worth their salt would know that. You can't take a matchbox structure and put it high up in the air in the direct path of the wind. It's gonna fall down. Just like the wolf off and puff in Red Riding Hood, it's going to fall down. And so here again, no thought or poor thinking on the part of the contractor and the representatives of the government to put those makeshift homes high in the air. So again, the government is responsible in a large way, in a major way, for the disaster that those people suffered in success. Now, let me tell you why I am of the opinion that the government is wicked, or the representative is wicked. I don't know the cost. I don't know how much money is being paid to the contractor to move a home. I don't know if it is cost per home, cost per structure. I don't know if it is a lump sum, a big contract, a lump sum contract. But I'm sure that millions of dollars are being paid to the contractor. Now, first and foremost, I'm thinking, let's say millions, the millions of dollars could have been given to the owners of those makeshift homes to move their homes with guidelines. This is what we expect. This is what we expect. This is the financial support we're giving you to move your home from where they are to the new plots of land. This is a timeline you have. And so the community could then come together and say, hey, we're going to do this thing self-help. The government is providing financial support. Let us eliminate the labor cost by working together as a community to move these homes. And so we'll have more money to our disposal to improve on the structures that we are moving. That's the first step for me. We could have done that. A government of concern could have done that. Even if they had hired a contractor to supervise the process, a government of thoughtfulness and care could have done that. That's the first thing why I'm saying they were wicked. The second thing is, you see where these people live. You see that they are living in makeshift homes. You have asked them to pay $250,000 or $500,000 for plots of land which they have done. You're saying to them, you need to move from where you are to these plots of land. The government currently has several relief programs, housing relief programs. I know one of them is the steel and cement program. Why not dip into that steel and cement program and say to these people who are going to move their makeshift homes from point A to the new plots, we are going to give you steel and cement support. And so we are in short going to sponsor the foundations for your homes. And not just pillars, but we are going to maybe give everybody a standardized foundation. Why do I think everybody could have been given a standardized foundation? Let's say a standardized foundation for a 2-bedroom home. If everybody gets a standardized foundation for a 2-bedroom home, it means that gradually they can remove themselves out of those makeshift homes and move themselves into 2-bedroom properly constructed homes. For example, if you give me or if you give these people a standardized 2-bedroom foundation, contractors, builders will tell you that there's no need for columns on a structure like that. They can build a structure like that with tie blocks, because once the foundation is in place, then they can start laying the blocks on the foundation. Trench foundation, let me call it that. Right? They can lay their blocks there and they can tie them because they're not big, elaborate structures. So instead of having to cast several columns, you do tie blocks. And you can also do what I like to call fake columns. You leave a space between the tie blocks and you slap on 2 wood and you pour concrete with steel in between there to add strength to it. And so you're giving these poor people a start on which they can build to a better future. But no, all you want them to do is move from where they are within 72 hours, and you take millions of dollars, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars, and you give it to one of your contractor friends and you say you set them up. So they had no thought, number one, for the well-being of people, and number two, for the future growth and development of people. Because if you had only Give them a good start in terms of the foundation. The foundation is important for anything. If you give them a good foundational start, then they had something on which they could have built. But no, they don't deserve it. They're not good enough. And so all of the housing improvement programs that the government had, tap into any of them. They couldn't tap into any of them to give these people some real assistance, right? They couldn't. And so the people are now suffering as a result of natural disaster and man-made disaster in the decisions of the government. Compare this government's behavior to Traore, Burkina Faso. Compare, look at it too, and see where love is in government, where thoughtfulness is in government. And mind you, where they have placed them for this $500,000 house lot or $250,000 house lot, whatever the right price is, there's no proper drainage and irrigation. There's no potable water. There's no electricity, as far as I remember. As a matter of fact, again, there's an arrangement with the contractor to supply water to the area. One black tank water, I understand, is for 2 families. They don't care the size of the families, but 1 for 2. One black tank water is for 2 families. One lady said that she gets half a tank of water for herself, her husband, and 7 children. And while the water is supposed to be going every other day, if they don't pay the contractor for 3 weeks, 3 months, no water goes. And so the people have to fend for themselves in terms of getting water, potable water, and otherwise. So there's a contractual arrangement to transport water into the area. How much more efficient would it have been for Guywa to quickly run water mains into the area to supply water to the people, even at a cost? Yeah, Mike, squatting is illegal according to your people. Squatting is illegal. I don't know why squatting in my own country. My mama there, my daddy there, my 4 parents built this place. They made their sacrifices, they paid the price. But for me to get a piece of land, I got to go through a Nilai. And if I occupy it without going through the Nilai, I'll say I'm a squatter. But note, Mike, in case you didn't get the memo, the area of success we're talking about is no longer squatter. They're no longer squatting. They were made to pay for those plots of lands through the Ministry of Housing. You know, one of the other things I heard? I didn't get to see the documents, but I'm hoping somebody can send me the document soon enough. That the agreement of sale or the agreement for payment for those lands has on it temporary occupation. So your poor people find $500,000 or $250,000 to occupy these lands, but it is temporary. Why is it temporary? I want to know. I hope Mr. Aaron or Sir Madam Minister Rodriguez can come and explain to us why those people have agreements for the payment for land and it is marked temporary occupation. I would like to know that. If it's temporary, I guess they can move them at will. But why is it temporary? Because one of the big boys' friends might need a particular plot and we're going to move you for 4th time? You see, people like Mike, when they come here and they talk these things, they just add to my aggravation. Because quite frankly, no Guyanese should have to
go down the road of having to squat, as according to y'all, squat on a plot of land. Every Guyanese should be entitled to a plot of land. And even if they have to pay for it, there should be ease of access to it. Foreigners are coming, non-nationals are coming and getting hundreds of acres of land in our country. Acres upon acres of land in our country. And they're getting it with such ease that you think this is a commodity sitting on the shelf of a shop. And once you find the right person to pay, you get it with such ease. But for God's sake, people born and grow hay. Their neighbors stringberry hay. Their foreparents made all kinds of sacrifices to develop hay. I'm being told that is squatting. They got to wait for more than 20 years and 30 years to get a basic piece of land measuring 100 by 80. 100 by 80. This is the standard that Guyanese are exposed to in terms of land development and housing. And non-nationals are coming and getting acres upon, as we say, abar, abar. Where are the consciences of these people? Here is Mike again. You certainly don't. I'm ahead of you in this class. Because I just spoke about people going through the channels and having to wait for 20 and 30 years. Can you imagine? I applied for a piece of land at age 20. I think the PPP made it 21, age 21. And I waiting for 20 years is 41. I am at when y'all ready for give me a piece of land, assuming I'm going to get it in 20 years. I'm sure people like Mike got access to 10 and 12 and 40 pieces of land. Like the government friends occupy all the low-income house lots and the East Bank there, Providence and so on. They're occupied by friends and cronies of the government. They build structures and them and lock them up, waiting for future development. And you think this is a humane government? Those are some of the things I want to point out to you how wicked, how dirty and stink at heart the people sitting in government are. Mike asking me to answer. My God. Here's a dunce. Mike asking, I don't know where's Flapnoo to start with, but why Flapnoo didn't give them land in the first 28 years? And then the 5 years of the coalition. Check the history of this country. And you will see, not only did the PNC in 28 years give people land, they develop housing schemes to them. The majority of the housing schemes developed in this country, and housing schemes of note developed in this country with proper infrastructure and long-lasting infrastructure were done under the PNC government. Go check it, Mike. The North Rhine Belt and the South Rhine Belt and the Festival City and the Melanie Damishana and maybe West Rock and Retrieve. The PNC and government in the 28 years were developing housing schemes. They weren't just sending people to banded lands, as we like to call them, lands covered in bushes. They were encouraging cooperativism. People were made to join land development co-ops, and they were doing self-help to construct their homes. Currently, your PPP government is de-emphasizing co-ops. They're taking away lands from co-ops. They're threatening to shut down co-ops. They're throwing out the legitimate management of co-ops and replace them with interim management so that they can have control of co-op lands. Polori Joe said in Parliament that they were going to go after the millions or thousands of hundreds of thousands of acres of lands in the names of co-ops. Right now, I can tell you, the people at Enmore, Haslington North Co-op, they're up in arms, fighting to keep the lands out of the hands of corrupt friends and cronies of your government, Mike. I can tell you that if the judge shook you up at Melanie, lost hundreds of house lots to your government, who stole it from them, bullied them, and took it away from them. And even what is left now, when you go around the Numprel turn, or the Melanie turn as we call it, immediately to your left as you're going around that turn, a large swath of land belonging to the Vijalsha Cooperative started developing recently. The government went in and bullied them to stop development. Those are lands, Mike, which were given to co-ops, which were given to citizens through co-op for housing development by the PNC government. Your government is now fighting to take them away from them. Why the coalition didn't give lands to them? Check again. Check again. The coalition was developing housing schemes. They weren't just handing people land, they were developing communities. Go look at the blueprint. Blueprints which were left in office for your government to follow. But instead of following them for holistic development, they want to play politics and do piecemeal development, and they want to be discriminatory and racist. Why do we have so many squatters? Because for the 23 years that the PPP has been in government, they made a mess of housing development in this country. You want me to start by telling you that when a particular gentleman who I mentioned yesterday as being in the dirty trick department of the PPP was Minister of Housing, when the Ministry of Housing was on Home Stretch Avenue, they burned it down. They burnt it down. You check the history of the PPP and check the length of time it takes from application to allocation for house lots. And then you're going to understand why they got so much squatting. Then you will understand why there's so much squatting. And you're making it sound as though it's only one set of people squatting. I dare argue that the biggest number of squatters in this country look like you, Mike, or look like your government. Right? So come again. It's 19 minutes past 8 o'clock hour. You tune to the Guyanese Morning Time. It's the 17th of May. And I'm your host, Kiraki Amsterdam, the Buxtonian. Let me show you more wickedness on part of the government. Mike, that's what we're talking about. Wickedness on your government wickedness. Your government has issued a memorandum. Your caring government has issued a memorandum. Comes from the Ministry of Education. Memorandum. Let me ensure you see it for yourself. You can't make these things up, man. These things are not manufacturable. You don't make these things up. Ministry of Education, Memo 8 of 2024. From Chief Education Officer to Regional Education Officers, Regions 1 through 10, and Principal Education Officer. Subject, end of academic year matters for 2024. Date, 15th May 2024. Given the number of weeks of instructions already lost and the limited number of weeks remaining in the school year, the Ministry of Education has made the following decisions regarding end-of-year annual examinations and other matters for 2024. 1. No public primary or secondary school is to conduct annual examinations in the August term of 2024. 2. All schools are to conduct continuous assessment in the current August term. 3. The end-of-year score for grade 9 should not be the main criterion for streaming students in grade 10. Consideration must be given to the student's choice of stream. Circular 13 of 2023. must be adhered to when streaming of students is done. 4, the National Grade 5 assessment will be administered as usual. This is for your information and immediate action. Yours respectively, Saddam Hussein. For information, Priya Manik Chan, Permanent Secretary, copy to all members of Education Systems Committee. Now let me explain the implications of this memo to you. First and foremost, let me tell you this, that this memo is as a result of the teachers' legitimate strike action and the government's arrogance. The government's insistence that it will not engage with the teachers with their demand for multi-year bargaining. Understand that? So here what? We are prepared as a government to stretch out this process. And we know it is going to be stretched so long that we know that the teachers are not going to go back to the classroom for just now. And so there will be no end of term examinations because teachers are not going to go to administer it. And so we're going to send out this memo. No end of term examinations must be administered. The grade 9 examinations must not be considered or used to consider which stream children are going to be placed in, the learners are going to be placed in for grade 10. Let me tell you the implications of that. These are the implications. The August term examinations, the August term end of year examinations is a promotional examination. It is a promotional examination. You know that at the end of the August term is when children will come home with their reports and say promoted to grade 1, 2, 10, 12, 14, whichever grade they will be promoted to. Or back in the day when I was at school, it might have marked repeat. Child to repeat current grade. Child to repeat current grade. Or child promoted to new grade. So it's the promotional exam. And so Saddam Hussein, Priya Manik Chan, and the rest of the PPP saying, hey, don't worry the promotional exam. We're going to promote them at the end of the term anyhow because no child should be left behind. No child should be left behind. And so they will be promoted because there will be no promotional exams. Let's use continuous assessment to promote them. But when is the instruction coming to promote them based on continuous assessment? When the term has about 6 weeks, if so many left. And so are we continuously assessing them for the next 6 weeks when teachers are on strike? In short, to cover their failures, the ministry is saying, we can promote them anyhow. Now, what is the impact of that? Before I go to the impact of that, let me go to the grade 9 exams. Do not use the grade 9 examination to determine streaming of the children. Let me explain that. Again, it's a promotional examination. And it is an examination that determines which stream you go to. Let me explain streaming in case you don't know, Mike. At least when I was at school, we had a science stream. That is if you're science-oriented. In order to get into the science stream, you have to pass mathematics, English language. Mathematics and English are core subjects which you must pass to be promoted. Mathematics and English, integrated science, right? I think social studies, you have to pass at least those 4 subjects before you can even be considered for entry into the science stream. Then they have the business stream. You have to pass mathematics, You have to pass English language, you have to pass social studies, and maybe geography or one of them. But those social studies, maths, and English were prerequisites to the business stream. Then you got, now they got tech stream or industrial technology, I think they call it. Right? And we also had arts. For you to go into arts, you have to pass social studies, maths, English, geography. Because when a child performs at that examination and you look and you see where their strengths were, you can determine this person is science-oriented, this person is technical-oriented, this person is business-oriented, this person is arts-oriented. And so you put them in the stream based on their orientation from what you're seeing in their examination results. But here you are saying, forget that. Don't use the examination to stream them. Don't look at their performance in the examinations to stream them to determine which is a good fit to them. Just hear what they want to do. Just hear what they want to do. And so you might have a child who, in his mind, wants to study science. But when you look at the child's performance, he or she is nowhere close to performing well in science. And so because the child says, I want to go in science, then they take them and send them in science. And as time progresses, you recognize that this child is really failing science because this child has more aptitude for the arts. This child is a more hands-on person, and so this child should have been in the technical area. But no, Saddam Hussein and Sitara Gal say, hey, forget that thing, man. Don't look at the exam results. Just listen to them and see where they want. And so what? These clowns are setting our children up for failure simply because they are failing to act as a government with a conscience, to act as a government with the interest of our learners at heart, as a government with the interest of our citizens at heart. It's an ego trip. This country is about ego. I got a bigger boss than you, and therefore you can't make I do what you're requesting that I do, even if you're right. We will see the long-term impact of those decisions. We are definitely going to see the long-term impact of those decisions. But I hope that you're recognizing the wickedness of your government in the decisions that they're making. The lines are opened. 6225933 is the number to call. 6225933 is the number to call. The funny thing is this. The people who are making decisions that will harm your my children and our next generations are the people who are controlling the country's purses, getting the best of rewards for themselves and their families, and ensuring that their children get the best education. So we're going to end up like India, where the Gandhis were the only persons in apparently capable of managing the country. Was Indira Gandhi, was Rajiv Gandhi, was this Gandhi, was that Gandhi, the other Gandhi, until people start killing them out. So it's a dynasty. The only people who can get education in this country, because they got money to pay for it, would be the Nandalas. Well, I understand you don't get no picnic, so not worried. The Alis and the Husseins and the Manichans, only them picnic or get education. And then they're going to come and say, well, we going to run the country because we get education. We are setting ourselves up, or we are allowing ourselves to be set up, to be enslaved, to be marginalized. Take note. stand up against the wickedness of this government, as is evident in their decisions. Stand up against them and fight for the changes that you know will benefit this country and your next generations. Caller, thank you for holding. You're live.
Thank you. Good morning to you and all my black brothers and sisters. Well. We must always remember, Jagan said plain, own the land, I will own the country. Find point for flat garden. Wherever you got to do it. If you got to kill black man, punish black man, drive them out of the country, do it. Because Guyana belongs to Kobe people. Last night we listened to Mr. David, and our black sister mentioned a word where everybody, black man, afraid to mention a word. I mentioned it before. When my grandmother teach me, a good colleague is a dead one. And Charandas make me remember what my grandmother teach me. It's not all of them. Let me make myself clear, but majority of them. Because God blessed us with 5 senses, but we are only using 4. That is our big problem in Guyana. We're not using all 5, and the main one we're supposed to use is our hands. I am glad you mentioned the word many times about wicked, the word wicked. What God did when Samson said to him, Lord, restore back my strength. Let me kill out these wicked people. My God, come on, Flat Garden. What Samson did? What God did? God said, no, don't do that, this is wrong. God, restore back Samson to kill out those wicked people. You see, sometimes when we believe that when we do something, we go to hell, no. If God didn't want Flat Garden to repeat this, he would have removed it before Flat Garden born, before you go to school, to learn to read and understand. It is time for black people to use them hands. We talk too much, and we depend on Abinati too much. Abinati is not the answer. It's our power and dignity and personality is the answer to the situation in Guyana right now. You guys don't believe in fire, but Flat Garden believe in fire. We can only believe in fire. And Jesus said, I come not to condemn, but to fulfill. You live by the sword, you perish by the sword. The Cody government and live by the sword with black people and told them children today. But black people keep them hands in them pocket. They're afraid to go outside there. Look, these young men in Haiti, young men. They go outside, they find gun, brick, cutlass, and they shut the country down. They shut the business down. And the president, they have to resign and let progress start. Why we Guyanese, black men, young men, cannot do that? But we're allowing these people them to do a lot of things to our grandparents and parents.
I think we lost Flash. The lines remain open. 6225923 is the number to call. Darren Ali say I'm not the brightest bulb in the room. I'm providing light though. The kind of light that the PPP can't withstand. Right, Darren Ali? Ali is not the brightest light in the room. I don't even know if Ali got any light. Ali is a dark hole. But y'all still got the dancing and leading, y'all. Call it life.
Morning, Kadaki, and morning, Guyana. Simple question for African Guyanese folks. When are we going to get some sense? A couple of years ago, I believe I had called and said the Indianization of the educational system. So for 23 years, the racist mafia PPP has been in there. Indian party. And all they have done is Indianize the educational system. So my question is, when are we going to get some sense as an African people to see what is actually happening to them? But apparently, the beat goes on, and we have no solution to what is happening. Like Fox Gordon said, shut the country down. That's my take.
Thank you for your call. The lines remain open. 6225933 is the number to call. Call your life.
Morning, Kadaki. I don't know if you can hear me properly. You hearing me?
Yes.
Good. We forgot. Let me add some things to the Ibrahim Tiari. He's coming on the back of Thomas Sangakar, right, who was murdered by France after he took over that country. And what Ibrahim is doing, Ibrahim was a real boy when the man was murdered. What Ibrahim is doing exactly what that man intended to do. You know that boy even murdered, and they offer him, that gentleman I should say, they offer him presidential salary, and he refused to say no, give me my colonel's salary. He said to the country, we're going to tax you so that we can buy arms for the country. Our country needs arms, and the country gave him the red light to go ahead. You know, we ain't got selfless leaders there in Guyana who will dare do that. It's all about them, especially the PPP, especially the PPP. We talked about Story Success Foundation, blah, 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 etc., where they're building the land from building out skills and so on. As you should know, I lived in Bahamas, went through some terrible hurricanes. And that same Calvin in London, after Hurricane Gina Francis, which mashed up the island of Freeport, was given a contract. You know what? He headed a program to build homes for the U.S. State Department and the Bahamian government together. And he built those things in flood zone areas because people there, people got their land. People couldn't move, right? And he built them on stilts. And I visited many times and see what that was did and did show that project was well. And today those houses are still standing. The same man be charged with nonsense. Yes, he did that, Calvin Luther. You understand? As to the Minister of Education, woman, sit back. Soon things will happen to y'all, and your children will suffer the dumbness that you are doing. Your children will suffer. I don't care if you say they're going to come and live out here, but we're going to make sure somebody is going to suffer for every one of you because you continue to dumb down that country. Because education is not important to you. You are an educated nation, it's a well-informed nation. You are interested in education, right? But hold on, things will soon swing and come at you all. As Flash Gordon said, stop depending on everybody going to multiple protests. Go out with run down and then on Tuesday, if you have put your money where your mouth is, run out with run to them on Tuesday. In front of Jesus, the faithful servants call them, go out with them and put your money where your mouth is. That's one of the most important protests right now for that country. That day, biometrics and changing of the voting list, where you're sitting on your ass, waiting on Aubrey North. Y'all are leaders, y'all need to know the power y'all got. Go out and run to them, put your money where your mouth is. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. You tune to the Guyanese Morning Time. I'm your host, Kidaki Amsterdam. We got a voice note. Let's play it.
A very good morning to Kadaki University of the Guyanese Nation. God has welcome those who are in and out of diet for God versus. Mr. Kadaki, those situations that you see happen here at the back of the place, people should be held responsible for it. Those things sacrifice and attack more, the people should be held for it. And we're talking about them foundation with them house. They got no contract who don't know that them house will fall. Those are premeditated acts. You can't build foundation for put house on column like that. And the column tap in tight, the column tap in a board in and board and not lock. And they set up on a solid base. A proper base, you gotta clean out the ground properly and put a solid base. They already know that what happened. So the people who live there, gotta thank God that none of them will become victim because the rain wasn't more than that. And wasn't more every water or one. You know, rain pour more than that. They need to thank God because all them might have in the house. And all next thing here, some budum one after the other. And then they will Guyana now, will have got a big chaos squad. Because people might have there to get injured or end up in a wheelchair. There's how sacrifices be made. And there's how trap are set. Open when the rain come, people will become victim. Because I can't see nothing more than that. They got no proper body in the right sense. That call themselves contractor will do nothing like that. Or support that by supposed to be all in contempt for death more if possible. But that won't happen in this country. However, I do hope they teach them don't give in to this government's stupidness. Because can't eat their dinner and Guyana is finished with. Let this government properly make proper agreement and promise before they agree to go back in. I am warning them. This government is stopping now. Right now, they want to put people in poverty all the time. That's why they purposely do it that. They want to grow up uneducated and illiterate so they can get for control them as Dunstones. But I am telling you, Guyana and Guyanese parents, come to yourself. Vote this government out. Vote this government out. If they stay in the next 5 years, I side for what happened with Guyana, the children and Guyana future. Get rid of this government and don't let it get all of them local government branch. Don't let it do it. I am telling y'all, all them city ball, the community they're gonna mourn. It's bare wickedness these people after. They're not after peace, love, nor unity. They're not after kindness nor gentleness. They're not after a country becoming successful and developed. They are trying to keep a nation in poverty. Guyanese parents, grandmother, all who going to vote, don't get tricked on this election. God bless Guyana. Again, you can't say y'all not be one. Y'all cannot say y'all not be one. Get rid of this government. God bless this country. God bless you, Guyanese. God bless you, Mr. Kadaki. Have a blessed day.
Thank you for your voice note. The lines remain open. 6225933 is the number to call. You have another voice note.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Amsterdam. I'm just calling to put in my 2 bits, you know. When I think about this whole thing, this government is very wicked and vindictive toward these people. They don't care about nobody. Just imagine. The teachers, they refuse to just give this teacher what they rightfully deserve. Teachers is a hard-working people like this. Oh, teacher lazy, teacher this, teacher that. And put some of them to do the work. They cannot do the work. What black people do this? People so that they hate us so, man. It's time people wake up out of this sleep and stand up against this government. This government is a demonic and a regime that hate black people and hate those that vote against them. Because I realize if an Indian, they see the Indian look like they're going on the AP news side, they victimize them. But they target black people most. And I don't understand. They get a man there, they call it the bishop or whatever bishop he be. I don't know what he just tell his members them when he go to church Sunday morning. His members them need to put him to his place and let him know he's not doing the correct thing. He should have been like a Joseph there for black people to stand up for them, but instead, he is more wicked than the government. And I think more people need to come out and support the teacher, and the teacher should not submit to them. Stand up. They must have to come to something. And let them not give them no stupidness and accept it. Tell them they're giving them this percentage. No, let them give them what they want, because this long now they've been struggling for it. And now you're going to say, oh, you're going to evaluate students and put them over because they don't intend giving the teacher anything. That's why we're going to show them. The teacher need to show them and would not go back into the classroom. Where the valuation or variation they're doing, they're not going back. School have to open back. And you have to have teachers to teach them. So let me watch and see. I think other unions supposed to come on with these people and call for what they want to. Make this protest more powerful. And I think the APNU need to bring out their supporters and support the teacher too. Because they have people in the teaching authority that are teachers. The parents are teachers, the children are teachers. So we need to come out and support. Numbers speaks a lot. If we have 3,000 people on the road, the PPP will come to the senses. But if you just get like 10, they don't care. And then not deciding he's supporting protests. Well, I'm sorry for he think it's a pussycat, is a kidney playing with, But there's a old Bengal tiger he got in front of he. And this Sunday school politics where he playing can't work. You got to be drastic with these people.
Thank you for your voice note.
Good morning, Mr. Kidaki. Concerning a letter, apart from the teachers being on strike and your explanation to us, it has also to do with her daughter at Queen's College, who is in grade 9 going over to grade 10. So the streaming from the third form into the fourth form, that is to accommodate her daughter who is not doing well at QC, who is just like her. She was no high flyer at Queen's College, and the same thing, the daughter is no high flyer. She's doing that also, not only because the teachers are on strike or whatever you explain. I'm not doubting what your explanation, but it's to accommodate her daughter. She does a lot of things to accommodate her daughter, who's at Queen's College, going into the fourth form in September.
Thank you for that. I'll take some calls now. I think I've played a number of voice notes and people are trying to call. So the lines are open. You can call. Call and let me tag the thing. 6225933 is the number to call. You see how y'all stay? When voice note playing, y'all calling. When voice note stop playing, y'all call. Y'all ain't calling. Well, some of y'all like jump for attention, baby. Only when your parents engage in something, y'all want their attention. Well, it's now 11 minutes to the 9 o'clock hour. You tune to the Guyanese Morning Time. I am your host, Kidaki Amsterdam. Let me see if there are other voice notes. That one was dropped. I don't know why.
Morning, Mr. Amsterdam. This thing with the government and the teacher. The government is willful. First and foremost, the PPP government is not interested in an educated nation. The PPP wants the country to be illiterate, so when election time comes, they jump and you jump. When you come a spirit line, you cannot read, so you can't go and understand and counteract and realize that he's deceiving the people. The PPP is the same party who shut down the national service. What was the purpose for the national service? The purpose of the national service was that who drop out of school, they could go and learn a trade. Those unruly, they could be disciplined. I know I grew up with some unruly guys. They went national service, and when they came back, they learned trade, and they came back fully disciplined. But that is what the PPP don't want. Imagine Guyana have so much oil wealth, and the PPP, they're only budgeting. They're not making education free from nursery to university, you still got to pay to go to the university. And when they come in office 1992, Bonham had it free. So it is obvious that the government is not interested in an educated nation. They want the country to be an illiterate population. So when they say jump, you jump. So they get unstuck. And every foolishness that they could come and tell you, you will believe.
Thank you for the voice note. Lines remain open. 622-593 is the number to call.
Good morning, Mr. Amsterdam and Mr. Winston Jordan. You guys don't know how pleasing it is in my ears to hear Mr. Jordan's voice again on your program. I've been stressing from since he was arrested, and I didn't see or heard him appearing on any program, that the PPP has once again succeeded in silencing one of our outstanding personnel. Once again, I'm pleased to hear your voice, Mr. Jordan, and I hope you can be around with us as frequent as possible. Thank you.
Thank you for your call. Voice note.
Good morning, Kadaki. Good morning, Fiat. Now we're talking about the people in success. Now, if the government charging the premium $500,000 for that, this is what I was claiming in Seattle. It is too hard for the poor people to find $500,000 just for our slot. But anyhow, the same $500,000, why the government did take it and buy sand, stone, and cement and give the people them as a big start, put it back into material and give them. You want to come off the ground, yes, at least some feet off the ground. Give them the materials that they could construct a proper home with the same $500,000. We're talking about you love the people, you love the children, them, and all these kind of things. Them. I'm talking about one Guyana. Indeed, it's one Guyana. They're on the map. It named one Guyana. But it's not one people in Guyana. So when you're talking about one Guyana is one Guyana. That's what they're on the map. But the main point is that the same 500,000, they could take it, stone, cement, sand, steel, and let the people construct a proper little housing scheme as a start and see how far they could move on with that. This will be talking about development. Now you're going to let people knock up something and knock up down, and you do inferior work. This will be saying. They could do far better than that. Though about progress, they could do far better than that. Give the people the chance, and we see what they're going to do. The same 500,000 always charging them for the outside. Take the same 500,000 and say, hey, what? We give you all this, you want to construct a proper house. Even if you get the drawing, give them the drawing, and let the people get their own drawing, and push along the business. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you for your voice note.
Good morning, Kadaki. Seeing that Guyana is a different place, and soldiers are becoming so stupid and dumb that anybody can put any lap clot or bomb clot into their mouth, I think something should happen that never happened in other countries, where the civilian should overthrow the soldiers. Yes, overthrow them in any way, means, or form. Bye.
Thank you for your voice note. The Guyana Teachers Union has Blackout Friday today. You can participate by removing your display photo on all social media platforms so it can be black. Use hashtags to show support and solidarity for teachers. For example, hashtag pay teacher livable wage, hashtag invest in education, hashtag I stand with teachers. You can also tag Guyana Teachers Union Facebook page in your hashtags. Just create all other professions, so join the struggle. I want to recommend also that you send your concerns, messages of concerns to that that WhatsApp number that was publicized by the Ministry of Education for the competition. Call it live.
Good morning, Kadaki. Good morning, Jordan. You know, like the exams in teaching and the reason why there's so much water all the time in the day. It's because it's really they've been suppressing and oppressing the Palestinians so much, and that they've created so much hate. This year were born with the hate to them because they think that they can use the Palestinians for hate. And the same thing is going on with black people. These people have been doing so much to black folks in Guyana that they creating real hate, and it's dangerous. Look at, for instance, the thing that he played this morning with Mr. George, really praising Mr. Randy for standing up for him, even though some of the people, the black folks in his part did not stand up for him, or couldn't stand up for him because they're afraid of being marginalized or whatever. You know, it's a different punishment for black people compared to Indian people. Even Indian people who want to stand up against this government here, it's a different punishment. They give them a little brush or whatever, but black people stand up, and people need to understand that we're going through a different thing with these people. This is their way. Things are going on in this country, and people need to realize that, and people need to stand up against this government. But I'm calling on where they've done stuff. Y'all ain't got nothing. You know what I mean? And y'all looking for it. They got it. You know what I mean? Where y'all at? Y'all killing the living young because you still trying to not teach our kids what to learn, so they must oppress them the same way that they're oppressing us. And they want to kill them because they want to put them out there to steal, and then they want to kill them. So come on themselves, where y'all at? They got it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your call. I'm not taking more calls. I want to show you all something. The caller spoke about the Dunn Thugs and what's happening. You see this story here? I am paying particular interest in this story, and you will know why. Kaicho News. Third suspect in murder of man at East Coast Demerara bus park nabbed. Follow the story. Let's read. May 15th, Kaicho News. The third suspect in the murder of 33-year-old John Williams, a machine operator at the East Coast Demerara bus park, was nabbed by police on Sunday. Williams of Martysville, Monrepo, East Coast Demerara, was stabbed to death around 21:15 hours on Saturday at Commerce Street, Georgetown, between Longden and Water Streets by 3 teenagers. 2 of them are ages 14 and 15. Note, 3 suspects in the murder of this young man. What are their ages? 2 of them are ages 14 and 15. Police on Tuesday identified the third suspect as 18-year-old Daniel Badley, called Son of 41 2nd Street, Mocha, East Bank, Demerara. Badley has reportedly told investigators that he was in company of the other teen boys on the day of Williams' murder. So you have 3 youngsters, 14, 15, and 18. 18 is barely adulthood according to our laws. 14, 15, and 18, these are school-age children. who are accused of stabbing and murdering a 33-year-old man, John Williams, at East Coast Bus Park. On Monday, Kaitor News reported that Williams was killed while 3 teenagers tried to rob him of his haversack. Investigators learned that Williams was walking north on Water Street with a green haversack on his back. When he turned east onto Commerce Street, the 3 suspects pounced on him from behind. They tried to snatch his haversack, but he fought, and one of the teens stabbed him to his left chest. Williams fell motionless on the roadway, and the suspects walked away from the scene. An ambulance was summoned, and when it arrived, the emergency response team pronounced Williams dead. Police managed to arrest 2 of the suspects that same night. They both admitted that they only wanted to rob Williams. They also told investigators who inflicted the stab wound. The question in my mind is, what situations, what conditions of living, what hardships, what challenges exist in this society that young men between the ages 14 and 18 have to be out there robbing people, maybe for their survival? What are the challenges? What are the conditions that exist in this society that are leading to such quote-unquote desperation from our young people? I've shown you many examples of those situations. Number 1, the government doesn't value education. Number 2, they don't value the input of teachers to educate the children. Number 3, they don't respect people's need for food, clothing, and shelter. They don't see it as important to pay people livable wages so that they can take care of their family members. And so as long as people can't take care of their family members, what will you expect to happen? When hunger is present in the home, when desperation is present among the family members, desperate things will happen. The boys gonna got to eat, and they're gonna tackle each and anybody. As they say, dog are gonna yam dog in the city. And that is what we're experiencing. And let us not put a stop to it. Let us not hold government accountable. Let us not pressure government for more humane policies, wages and salaries policies, education policies, etc., social policies, etc. And we are going to see many, 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 many more of these instances of child criminals. Child criminals. And we will be losing some of our more productive minds or productive citizens to incidents like these, because we have a government that is callous and carefree. It is now 4 minutes past the 9 o'clock hour. I have to go. Have a good weekend. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining the program. If you're looking for a place to hang out this weekend, you know what you can do. Come down to Club Twilight. If you're looking for tables, chairs, and so on to rent, hit me up, 6225933. I got a link up. Good? Chairs, tables, tents, and so on, hit me up. You need some live streaming? Hit me up. I got it connect. Have a good day. Much love. Peace and love. Stay safe. Watch your back. And also keep an eye on this wicked and stinking, dirty, vindictive, and racist cabal masquerading as a government. Goodbye.